Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Circling the Nest, alternatively Squawking the Hawk, Circling
No.
Seattle Sports weekly Seattle Seahawks show. Um, Myself, Charles Hamaker, joined by Jake Parr. Jake, not a lot has happened over the offseason. It is the offseason? Wrong. Over the past week, it is the divisional round. I just watched Jalen Hurts run through a bunch of Rams. Um, very majestical. But there is some offseason discussion to be had. I think the biggest conversation currently over the past few weeks and days has been about the potential candidates for the next offensive coordinator job. We have a list of five candidates who have interviewed, I believe is the terminology here. Byron Leftwich, if you remember, former Steelers quarterback. I think he bounced around, but I remember him as a Steelers quarterback. Who was the Tampa Bay OC, Grant Udinsky, who I believe was in Minnesota, Clint Kubiak, who is in New Orleans, Hank Fraley, who I think is the offensive coordinator coach in Detroit, who just got knocked out yesterday. Sorry to my friend Everett Fitzhugh. And then Thomas Brown, who spent time as the interim head coach for the Chicago Bears. Um, Jake, I guess which of those candidates do you think would be the best fit for not only Seattle and what they have as a roster currently, and obviously that will change by the time that we get to training camp, I'm sure. But also, so much of the Ryan Grubb discussion seemed to be about the philosophical differences, right? Um, who do you of that list makes the most sense? And is there someone who hasn't gotten an interview yet that you'd want to see Seattle reach out to at least because you can say no, teams can say no, like happened with I think Chicago tried to interview McCarthy and then Dallas didn't come to a deal with him, which
Mm.
is fascinating. Um, so I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Which of those five candidates do you like as the best fit for Seattle, and who would you like to see get interviewed who hasn't been interviewed yet?
Um, I think I got to go with Hank Fraley, the Detroit offensive line coach. Um, and yeah, New Orleans. Ba, ba, ba. No. Da, ba, ba, ha, ba, 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 ba. No, I would, yeah, Detroit offensive line coach Hank Fraley. For one, the offensive line has been, you know, the problem that's been talked about the most. And I think having somebody who to come in to immediately who has had so much success with their offensive line. I mean, Jared Goff has been or was they got him last night. Uh, Excellent this year, but also their running game was brutal, and that was the one thing I think I noticed the most during the first half of when the Seahawks played the Lions back at the start of the season was that they could not stop the run game. Um, and a lot of that comes down to the offensive line. So I think getting the mastermind behind that. I mean, obviously we don't have like the same level of just raw talent on the line, but getting the brains behind it right. I think that's the first step, um, and letting him craft the offensive line that he wants. And I think that because we talked about this last week, the philosophical differences with Grubb
Yeah.
cannot have been as simple as run the ball more. But run the ball more is definitely a part of it because you can't go out there um, and let your quarterback get a franchise record in passing yards simply because you're passing every play. Not to diminish Smith and his accomplishment for setting a new franchise record in passing yards, um, but you know that's really why is because there was such a greater sample size of that. So many more passes just in general. Um, I mean, but I think settling down the line, especially with Gino being, a kind of pocket passer, just relieving some of the pressure on him. And again, this isn't a team that needs to make extreme changes. This is a team that very nearly made it, and it's even now that the playoffs have started, it's very frustrating watching these playoffs and knowing that it's wide open. I mean, the Commanders beat the Lions on Saturday. Um, the Rams are the Rams getting their teeth knocked out? What's the score there?
It's just 7-0, but Matthew Stafford has almost thrown a pick twice. So
Okay, so there you go, right? I mean, and that's the Rams. That's who went to the big dance instead of us. Um, it's a wide open playoffs. They just barely missed it. I don't think the team needs to make drastic changes. They need to iterate. They need to um, tweak and improve. And I think getting somebody who can lock down the offensive line, I think that's your most glaring weakness. I think you patch that up. I think you win 12, 13 games next year. So I'm putting my hat in for Hank Fraley. Um, that's the goal here. And
that's
hey,
that's where I would have
he
gone.
doesn't have any more responsibilities this year. Well,
Yeah.
he probably does like just wrap up, wind down film room
Oh,
stuff, but
sure.
he doesn't have any more games to manage.
Yeah. No, and I think that's where I would have gone too, is with Fraley, just because of, you talk about running the football, you talk about complementary football is a big thing, right? You're going to have a good defense, like just the Legion of Boom. If you'll remember in those early years, the defense was so good. Russell wasn't the passer that he became those early years.
Hmm.
Um, excuse me. And with Marshawn, I mean, when you've got a great running back, teams will obviously fill the box for that, and you can become one dimensional. Obviously that team was able to do a lot when they did open up a more balanced offense. Passing to my hero Doug Baldwin, beans, um, and UW legend Jermaine Curse. They were able to play complementary football with Marshawn Lynch on the ground and being able to, do something in the passing game, including tight ends like Zach Miller, not Chicago Bears Zach Miller, other Zach Miller, if you remember it. Um, yeah, you want that complementary football, and there are too many times where Michael Dixon's great. I think what his like average is the fourth best in NFL history right now, which is remarkable. The Seahawks made some graphic about it. I was like, oh, a punter graphic. I thought about scrolling by it, and then I read it, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, but he shouldn't be out there that much. It's kind of not the same situation as in Chicago, where Caleb Williams is like, you're not gonna have to punt much this year, and then I think he was one of the top punters in the league. Like,
Well, we saw a
you're
lot of them
putting,
when we played Chicago.
oh Jesus Christ, what a game, the game of all time. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. Is like Seattle's defense looked great at times throughout the year, and they've got a lot of talent there. But if you're running them out there and running them ragged because you can't do anything offensively, you can't hold on to the football, you can't sustain drives, it won't matter. Um, so yeah, you have to be able to play complementary football. I imagine that Fraley could help do that. But to your point, you talk about the talent on that line. Seattle will need to address, and we talked about it last week. They'll need to address that interior three.
Hmm.
I'm fine. Like Charles Cross had a good year grade wise. Abraham Lucas, I don't think was ever fully healthy or really got his feet under him throughout the course of the year because of how much time he missed. So I'm like, I'm fine having him out there again at the right tackle position. Uh, but inside, like you need legitimate guys. And I like again, I talked about it last week. I like Olu Oluwatimi. You need a real certified center, uh, getting the ball to. Again, I imagine it'll be Geno Smith. Um, throughout the course of the season, we can't have like you talked about last week. All these like what was it, 3 or 4 snaps going over his head over the span of 2 or 3 games. It just can't
Hmm.
happen. Um, I don't want the like we recorded our Mariners show earlier. Bottom to low tier, bottom of the clearance bin at Walmart, the DVD bin they got in there.
Hmm.
I don't want a guard from that. Like it just won't help you. And you want to play complementary football, having guys shed blocks and get in if you're trying to run it with Ken Walker, who hopefully is able to stay healthy if he's getting hit that much, right? Like it just starts up front, and you're seeing that kind of with these games. Obviously, with Philly, with how good their offensive line is. Washington's funny. I don't know how they put together. Like I don't know their line that well, but I don't know how they've gotten here. I mean, Detroit obviously got to their where they are. Talk about Fraley with a great offensive line. The Chiefs have been able to sustain a great offensive line. Obviously, like It is evident with all of these teams. Minnesota before they lost to the Rams, they obviously got a good line. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, I'd agree with you that on that, obviously, because I just went on a tangent about it.
Yeehaw.
And then
This
we've
is this
got
is we're doing a podcast. This is the show where you go on tangents and talk about things. Yes, that's the point.
no, I have to agree with everyone in the comment section, I thought.
No, no, no. You have to make them mad so that they comment and boost engagement.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, how about those M's?
Oh, I'm excited.
I know. Where are you going to watch all those away games, though?
Away games. Huh. I was thinking of coming here since, after all, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports.
I love that idea. Hope to see y'all here.